On paper, this budget wireless lav mic is just as good, if not better, than any other wireless lav mic out there, with features some of the best ones don't even have. But how is it in reality? That's what I'm going to find out by putting it through a gauntlet of testing and by using it for the entire duration of this video. But before we get into all that, just a quick disclaimer, this video was sponsored by Comica. I did get this for free, but all opinions are my own and I'm under no obligation at all to be nice. Now, what exactly is the budget in this case? In this case, the Comica Bullmax retails for $189 exactly at the time recording, which to someone who isn't familiar with the world of wireless lav mics, this might not sound very budget, but once you start comparing it to the other big players with 32-bit float, this thing is a steal, where those often cost $300 or more. And if you compare it to, say, the last gen of wireless lav mics, which often had 24-bit float, this thing is still cheaper, even with those on sale. But just having 32-bit float doesn't mean it's good, so let's start by going through what's actually in the box. Initially opening the box, I found the quality control card, warranty card, and the user manual, which comes in both English and Chinese, which is nice, but makes sense, I guess, for a Chinese company. But it's not something Fine did, with their Chinese and their manuals were just in English. I guess for English-oriented products, but still, I think it's nice to have the option of at least 2 or more languages, or even better, if I can find the manual in other languages online through some QR code. But they also don't do that. Anyways, next we find the carrying case, which some reviewers said felt cheap to them. I don't share that sentiment. It feels fine to me. It feels like the kind of material you'd see if something was trying to be water resistant, with a kind of zipper style that's completely covered for something that would be water resistant. Now, they don't advertise it to be water resistant, but I'm gonna test it anyways. Opening it up, we find the charging case itself in the center, and various knickknacks on the right and left, like the magnetic plate for the magnetic plates. Opening the bag up further, we see it has this nice little cable which does C to C and C to A, which now I'm wondering if it's something just Chinese audio companies do, because I didn't see it until I started reviewing these types of products. Anyways, moving on from that, it's got this nice little TRS 3.5mm cable, which basically allows the receiver to send audio to your camera. It's got 2 little wind muffs, which is attached to the tops of your transmitter, 2 magnetic plates to plate to your clothes, and that's actually really strong, because it's able to go through a jean jacket just fine. And then, of course, the charging case, transmitters, and receivers themselves. The charging case itself, of course, is plastic, but it's got nice rubber texturing on the front and back. It's got a USB-C charging port on the back and charging indicator lights on the front, as well as a 2800 mAh battery with, quote, battery life of 1.5 times. 1.5 times what? I don't know. Opening it up, you'll see the receiver displaying the estimated battery life of the receiver and 2 transmitters, but they're a little bit sneaky. You're like, oh, I've got 10 hours of battery life. That's insane. That's better than everyone. But it's only kind of true. That you actually only get 10 hours if you don't do any onboard recording, and instead record to, say, your computer or a camera, blah, 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 which is probably what most people going to do anyways. But it is slightly misleading to say, oh, I have 10 hours of battery life, and you actually have 5. Now, the receiver is what's going to allow you to control all of your microphone settings, do audio pass-through, record through the bottom USB-C out to your laptop or other computer, or perhaps record through the audio output jack to something like a camera. On battery life on that, like it showed earlier, 8 hours, or as the manual says, 8 hours. Like a snakes are writing this or something, I don't know. Next for your two transmitters, these are actual microphones. Each of them have 32 gigabytes of onboard recording capacity. Now, 32 gigabytes is something that other modern lav mics can offer at a higher price point, but go back even one generation, say the DJI Mic 2, those only had 8 gigabyte each. Laughable in comparison, and those still cost more today. But this onboard recording does have some caveats, which you will find in my later testing. Other specs, like I said before, it's got 32-bit float, which is enabled by default, so it can capture your quietest and loudest sounds, hopefully without clipping. Notably, it's also got both omnidirectional and cardioid pickup patterns, meaning that it has, like most lav mics out there, omnidirectional, meaning it can capture audio sounds from all directions, and cardioid, meaning it only picks up audio coming from directly over the lav mic itself, which is a very unique and nice to have feature. This feature in particular is what I was alluding to when I said even expensive lav mics don't have it. And I don't particularly understand why, because lav mics are something you use outside, in crowds, other uncontrolled conditions where you are trying to isolate your voice. Now, of course, this and other lav mics often have digital noise reduction, but hardware is almost always better, and cardioid pickup pattern is just a great way to do that. And then, of course, you got a power button, recording button, a noise suppression button, and on the bottom, a USB-C port. And all of these new came with this tape over it, which I personally found hard to peel off, but that's nitpicking. And then here's like a table of the rest of the specs, if you want to look. I'm not going to go through all of them. Let's get into actual real world testing. One important aspect of using any microphone outdoors is outdoor wind performance. Now, I don't have a real windy day to work with, but I've come up with my own possibly contrived and hopefully scientific way to test just that. I've got a fan placed right here, and another equally spaced, identical fan, the same distance from my camera, the Canon R7. So we compare the performance of this, at worst and best case, the performance of my camera, if you chose to use that, or say, just a smartphone. What you're hearing right now is something you should hopefully never do. I'm using this without a wind muff and no noise reduction. But it's something that could happen if you, say, lost or left the wind muff behind. Let's start by turning noise reduction on low. Here is it with noise reduction on low. I, right now, can't hear a difference particularly, but you can tell me later. And then here is it on high. I already can hear almost no noise, but again, we'll see later. One critical caveat though with this noise reduction is it is all processed on the receiver. What this means is this onboard recording gets none of that and sounds like this. That means in some situations, that onboard recording, which is, while great, will operate more as a backup. I've talked to Comic about this, and they seem extremely receptive, so this might be something that is fixed in the next iteration, and if it is, then maybe it has something to do with me, I don't know. Next thing we can try to remedy this is adding that all-important wind muff, just by placing it in the audio jack. And there we go, the difference is already night and day. I can hear almost no wind with noise reduction on high and a wind muff. But let's try turning noise reduction off. There we go, some wind came back, but still not very bad. The best solution is often the hardware one. And let's try on low. Again, I don't hear a giant difference right here between low noise reduction and none, but that makes sense. I'm back on no noise reduction, and I want to see if switching to a cardioid pickup pattern, which is a feature fairly unique to this microphone, makes any difference to the wind performance. And this is it now on cardioid. It sounds a bit better perhaps. Let's try turning noise reduction back on. Here's noise reduction on low, and no noise reduction on high. Hopefully you hear literally no noise, despite having a fan blasting in my face and wind sounds playing in speakers. How does it sound? Now I'm switching back to omnidirectional, and I'm gonna compare this performance with my Canon R7, which you can hear right now, and I can imagine it sounds horrible. And also compare how would you fare if you just place a smartphone at about the same position. How does this sound? This is an S24 placed at about the same position as the Boomax. Next, I'm gonna do a normal standalone plosive test, which is, I guess, similar to a wind test, but unusual to do to a lav mic, just because normally, you know, clip it on. But I see a lot of YouTubers nowadays hold it like this and walk around like this for some reason. Anyways, plosives. We're gonna start without the wind muff protecting it. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. And then with a wind muff. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. How was that? Now I'm actually in real outdoors, and we're gonna see how far I can walk before this microphone loses connection. Now I don't have a perfectly accurate way to measure this, but I do have a phone app that can give kind of ballpark estimates and just measures how far I walked. I'm basically just gonna read out the measurements until, well, you can't hear me anymore. 5 feet, 7 feet. $270, $280, $290, $300, $310, $320, $30, $40, $350, $60, $370, $380, $390, $400, and this is about as far as I'm willing to walk, so if you can still hear me, we're doing pretty good. And that is everything I can possibly think to put this microphone through. Let me know if you think I missed something for my future reviews, but oh yeah, also did I mention there's a phone app so you can control it all from your phone and record to your phone. I think for the money, you can't go wrong. This has its problems in terms of just maybe, like, I wish more fit in this. Like, you could leave the magnets on, that would be nice. Or if you could leave the muff on. Those are all just nitpicks. Just as a tool, it's great. And it does everything I think most people would need at a fraction of the cost. I think it's a good product, personally. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope to see you all in the next video or stream. Leave a comment down below, again, if you have any suggestions of anything else you think I should test or anything I should review. And bye!